Ambazonia, special loyalty. Praise to our Savior who granted us the freedom. Allegiance to the hero who God alone we gather.
Glory will rise and never to fall. Hearing a nation flowing with milk and honey. Glory, glory, glory to the Father for making you a nation, a joy forevermore. Amazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our needs. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God be the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our needs. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God be the watchman of this nation.
The meeting is now called to order at 1:25 p.m.
Thank you. Thank
Abakwa, roll call.
Present.
Edmund.
Present.
Chankfor.
Present.
Auntie.
Present.
Okay. Others may join in. Others may join in during the meeting, but we're going to start now, and with opening comments and remarks. I suggest that we go to a sort of a bi-monthly meeting format. Any thoughts, suggestions, any comments? Okay. The other thing I simply want to mention before asking any other team members if they have opening comments is the loss recently of a good friend of mine, Primus Forgwe, from the impacted area. He was not that old, maybe 73 years old, but my thoughts are very much with him and his family, and I know that everyone here supports those thoughts. Any other team members with any remarks or discussion or comments before we get into the main agenda? Okay, Chankfor, we'd like to hear from you on a report from Ground Zero.
Thank you. Okay, good evening from Cameroon, everybody. It's nice to be back after 2 weeks. Well, in terms of Ground Zero, it is really bad in our forest, in our grassland zone. Bamenda has been under siege by the army for more than 2 weeks now, and a lot of killing going on, a lot of shooting, a lot of extrajudicial killings, a lot of illegal arrests and detention, a lot of disappearances of people that are arrested, and the fight has been intensifying. And I'm sure you all are aware of the fact that the government decided to ban the circulation of motorcycles, and there are about 25,000 youths that are using motorcycles for transporting people. Why? Because that town has a lot of inaccessible roads to the main city, to the city center. So people depend on motorcycles to come and do their shopping, do their businesses, and go back. So the government decided to ban them because a policeman was killed after they have themselves have been killing so many unarmed civilians, and they killed one general, and so the boys retaliated by also killing a police commander, and so that led to a complete invasion of the town. The town has been invaded. In fact, as I'm talking to you now, I hear that there are about 2,000 troops blocking the Swobo area, blocking the rendezvous area, blocking the Longla area, blocking people even from coming to town to sell foodstuffs. So women who were bringing foodstuffs from Mancon and Bafut were now forced to make a makeshift market around the Mezam River around there to sell their foodstuffs, so they cannot go into town. So people are, because they ban motorcycles, the boys also banned the circulation of private cars and also taxis. So since last Tuesday or last Monday, there has been no circulation of taxis or personal cars in the city of Bamenda. So public transportation is the same. No, there's no interurban transport between that town, between that city and other parts of Cameroon. So the town is actually under siege, and only God alone knows what is happening there. But from information from people that are on the ground, it is not good at all. It's not good. People are they just entering into people's homes, searching arbitrarily, seizing things, burning things. The usual habit. That's what is going on right inside the city as we're talking right now, and the surroundings. So that's what is happening there. The virus is still doing havoc. All this in the midst of the virus. There are above 20,000 cases now, about 430 something dead, and so the situation at home is not really good. Then an opposition leader, Kamto, wants to start also a series of demonstrations starting on the 22nd. I think their aim is to put Bobia out of power, to drive him out of the state house. We don't know how that is going to work, but of course, the Minister of Territorial Administration is promising them hell, that people will be killed, people will be jailed. So there's tension in the atmosphere. Boya is a little bit calm. Boya is the only place that is calm. Limbe, there has been some skirmishes, and then of course Kumba, Manfe, and the BLM, of course, are still under Amba control to a large extent. So that is the information from Ground Zero for now.
There's a couple of questions. You mentioned the amount of cases and the amount of people who have transitioned. Can you give us those numbers again, Changfor?
20,300 cases right now, and 430 dead for now. And the virus continues to spread. Those are the figures.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Any questions or other comments for Changfor? Well, thank you again, Changfor, and
thank you. You're welcome.
That we're with you. You're in our hearts, minds, and thoughts and prayers every day during this struggle. We're now going to go on to a discussion, continuation of a discussion on historical fact. The first item of discussion is the British Southern Cameroons Association with the Federation of Nigeria. I'm going to turn this over to Abakwa.
Thank you very much, Uncle. And I would like to thank Tetan and Chang for that report coming from the hot zone. You know, even though we are thousands of miles away, we hear that bullets are flying everywhere. As we speak, even today, I got information from my brother. The time that they came to his house, they were searching. He was telling me not to call him, that they are in the other room.
Yes.
They have searched, and the only thing that they do is they should be very, very quiet and don't move. So it is chaos. Our prayers are with them.
Abakwa, excuse me, but before you go on, I simply wish to identify who's listed as iPhone, but no name. I have a chat.
I think that should be Axel.
Axel.
All right.
So again, I think because of the benefit of time, we would like to discuss the British Southern Cameroon Association with the Federation of Nigeria, and also British Southern Cameroon Association with French Cameroon. That is a lot to cover, but it is really worth doing that, because I've received a lot of positive feedback from people all over the world that this is the best way to actually inform our people, and some people are so excited getting this information. Without taking more time, I think that let us give preference to Tetan Changfo on the ground if he has anything for us to comment, and then we can go with admin and Axel. Okay, Changfo, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That relationship between Southern Cameroons and the Federation of Nigeria was very unique, and I think we were together with them for about 40 years, if my history is, if my recollection is correct. We were with them for 40 years. Of course, in the end, the same issues of marginalization were popping up, which then led to our people who were in the Nigerian government at the time opting to come back and become self-governed. And of course, Tafawa Balewa, the prime minister at the time, of course, was not in favor. And he did advance many concrete reasons as to what we will face if we were to separate from Nigeria. He went ahead to recount how much the Federation had done for Southern Cameroon to prop it as a government for it to survive, paying most of its bills and all that. But of course, that was not sufficient to deter our leaders who wanted to leave Nigeria and come back and then govern themselves. As you can recall very well, they were members of the Eastern House of Assembly. Muna, Foncha, them, Blind Joe, them, and all of them, Endeley, them, they decided now to walk out, and 13 of them, I believe, they walked out and then came back, and there was no one gunshot, despite all the advice against separating or being on their own. They still did, and of course they continued. The British government continued to fund them, so their self-government continued. I think from 1955, again, from not my history, my dates are correct, up to about 59, and then 60. I mean 61, when we decided to actually conduct the famous plebiscite, which has landed us into this horrible mess up to now. But then that separation from Nigeria was bloodless. I think that's it should be noted. It was very bloodless. Well, when the plebiscite was coming up, again, enlightened figures like Endeley, they didn't like it. They really pointed out that Ahijo's regime was not a regime for people to join, but that they could have gone to Nigeria. But of course, again, the argument was that they did not have it good with Nigeria. What I don't have are the real details of the magnitude of that marginalization, the insensitivities of the Nigerian government, according to our leaders at that time, that actually made them actually leave. Whether they were really that serious and warrant them to really go and govern themselves. So I think information, more in-depth information on that will be very, very important to understand. In the same light, we can then begin to do that comparative analysis. Now that we've now left and we are on our own, we're now facing again serious problems with these francophones. The question again still remains: was it worth it even joining these francophones? how persuasive were those arguments, and what were we really promised that actually made us again to ignore self-governance, again to join them? These are issues that I think scholars should really enlighten us upon, and I think that with that we can then be able to know exactly how to situate our own personal struggle. But anyway, by the way it is right now, this struggle is not going to go away, and I don't think we will go back to square one. Never. Something must be done. We must achieve that self-governance in one way or the other, or independence, or outright independence. And I think that is basically the comment that I have to make for now in regards to that relationship with the Federation of Nigeria.
Does anyone has any questions?
Yeah, I think I would just want to throw, this is Admi. I just want to throw some light on Chamfor's question that he did not actually know what actually, he did not know what actually prompted our leaders to leave. This is a very important question it's very important to get an answer to his question, because our brothers today who talk about federation, we really need to understand this. We should not forget that our people were in some kind of federation. It was known as the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But the question is, was it actually a Federal Republic of Nigeria? We should not forget. Why I'm saying this is because Nigeria was still under colonization. Under colonization, how do you run a federation under colonization? Because Britain controlled the economy, Britain controlled the military and the foreign affairs. You now forming a federation. How do you run that without any sovereignty? How do you control those things? So the question is, was it actually a federation? So when I personally examine all those criteria, I realized that it was some kind of semi-autonomy the people had. The British were very clever in the way of doing things as compared to the French. So they were giving the people some kind of liberty. We should not forget that when we were associated with Nigeria, Nigeria was a colony to Britain, but we were not a colony to Britain. We were a trust territory of the UN. Now, it
Exactly.
a very difficult job for the British. How do they run a colony and at the same time running a trust territory? Because their mandate in the trust territory was limited only to sovereignty, which means they did not have the power to do other things when it comes to independence. But while in Nigeria, Britain could decide to end its colonization, it did not actually need the intervention from the United Nations. But in the southern Cameroons, they could not do anything with independence because they had a trusteeship agreement. And what most people don't understand about the trusteeship agreement here is that there were two trustees in two trusteeship in each trust territory. We mean the UN had an agreement with us, which means a trust. They were our trustee, while Britain was the trustee to the United Nations. So that actually made their jobs very, very impossible. And Britain now decided to bring these territories to work together because of administrative facilities. Well, I would not want to go in there, so that I answer. And Chamfos, excuse me, Chamfos. To my opinion, there was nothing like a federation, but a semi-form of federation. And the question here is, what this semi-form of federation, did it actually work? And when I examined the way our people left and came back to Manfay, formed their own parliament, the question I asked myself, if that federation we talk about, if it was actually a federation, if it worked, what actually pushed them not to continue that federal system of government? But when we look at them, they abandoned that system. They came into what was known as parliamentary system of government.
Yes.
And that is where, see, that's why when I talk with other intellectuals, I tell them that, look, there was nothing like federation. And our people never practiced genuine federation with Nigeria. So they don't even have any lessons to teach Francophones when it comes to federation, because they themselves did not. They never understood what was going on. And that is why when they left, they saw that it was a system that they could not cope with. So they came in now and formed what was known as the parliamentary system of government, which actually prospered Ambazonia to what we all know today. Now, but what were some of the things that made them? When we look at that semi-autonomy federation, we will see that our people actually enjoyed some kind of benefit. They were in the parliament with them. They were with them, and they were even in the government. Like, don't forget people like St. Muna was minister. You even have people like for Victor Mukete was minister. And that is why, you know, with Victor Mukete, he was even one of the last people who joined. Like Chamfo said, 13 of them left. But Mukete did not come because he was still enjoying his ministerial position in the so-called Federal Republic of Nigeria. So when he came back, when he was removed from that position, he came back. He wanted popularity. He wanted to pick up back. So he fought and joined the KNGP when he was promoted up to the post of technical advisor. He became the direct technical advisor to Foncha. And it is he who brought us actually to the mess we find ourselves today. But that is another topic we can discuss any other day. Now, when we look at again, our people, they were there in that political system. But what they realized was that in that political system where they were, they could not find themselves, they could not prosper. Why? Because they were the Igbos, they were the Yorubas, who were actually the most influential people in Nigeria by then, you know. So there was some kind of discrimination, you know. They found themselves at one point being isolated and overtaken. You see, in that federal parliament, their voices were not being heard. So it created some kind of discontent among them. And our leaders started talking. They started, you know, talking to each other than fighting each other. They started finding ways now to overcome Nigeria. And what was good with what the advantage they had was that we had our own parliament. So they were just going there to actually, you know, to review things together. Like it came in terms of how much we were going to contribute. And we should not forget, Southern Cameroon, about 70 to 86% of the budget that Britain used in controlling both Northern Cameroons and Southern Cameroons in that so-called federation came from the Southern Cameroons. That's something we have to know. So that budget was actually from the Southern Cameroons. So our people saw that there was no need being there because they were being isolated. So another aspect that brought them, the third aspect that made them to decide that no, we have to leave, was that they looked at the economy. Even before the economy, they looked at the government. They saw that the British gave an open way. Nigerians now, or the Yorubas and the Igbos, were now being posted into Ambazonia. So they were occupying very, very, very crucial position in the Ambazonia government. Or let me say, not even government in the Southern Cameroon, because by then our people have not left. They were still under the British. And they were still fully under the British and under Nigeria control. So, but they had administrators that were running the affairs together with Britain. So now they realized that Nigerians were being replaced. Ambazonians were being replaced by Nigerians. So our politicians asked themselves that, what is going on? Why should they be? And the British were now instead allowing Nigerians to come and take these positions. So when they occupied this position, it led to another crisis, which was the economic crisis. The businesses, contracts were being awarded to big Nigerian firms, to the Igbos and to the Yorubas. So our people could not prosper. So they started asking the British, what are we doing here? Why do you take us? Why are we here? We can't progress, we can't do anything. But the good thing is that despite that, Ambazonia, although the Nigerians were there, it was Ambazonia actually progressed. But you know, you also want to be part of your own development. You want to be part of your own responsibility. So the people found that although there were some kind of arrangements where Nigerians were there and there was progress, but our people wanted to be part of it, our politicians. So, but it came to a stage where my grandmother told me a story that in their market in Mamfe, because she was one of the women, the old women who started that market, an Igbo man can come with a trouser, he will come with materials. You just price him, you price the material. How much does this cost? I need about 3. He will ask you, how many meters do you want? You say 10 meters. He will just cut the material and then hand it to you to pay. If you don't pay, he will make an alarm. The other Igbos will come out. You'll be beaten there until you pay the material. So
you mean yeah?
Oh, yes. It happened in Bamenda as well. When you price it,
okay, then that's good.
Touch it. Just touch it.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's what she told. So it made them, you know,
Yes.
she was an old woman. Okay, I learned a lot from her. She started rallying women and asking behind her. They were having their tribal meetings, and she was asking, say, but what is happening? Say, I traveled to, because she was doing business between Ambazonia and Nigeria in those days. So she never saw such things in Nigeria. But when she came to her own home, those things were happening. So there was resentment about that. So our people now started finding ways to actually leave Nigeria. And fortunately, our people now gathered themselves. The politicians were able to cooperate, and that's the importance of communication. They were able to communicate with each other until they decided to leave the Nigeria parliament. So when they withdrew and came to Mamfe, that was where they formed their first gathering. There was no gunshot, just as Chamfor said. There was no gunshot. There are many reasons for that. One of the reasons, when I look at it, is that both countries were under British administration, so the British could not, the Nigerians could not fire a gun because they were still a colony. We were trust territory, and we were under British administration. Likewise,
Yes. Yes.
so and then
Yes.
when they left peacefully. They did not ask for any payment, any compensations. Although most of the budget came from the Southern Cameroons, they left and said, okay, enough is enough. We want to be on our own and do our own affairs. So they saw the marginalization became clearly to them, and they said that if we stay here, we are going to be the losers. And the final stroke was that the Igbo, the Nigerians now started occupying, invading from Mamfe, Ekok. They were coming, they were invading. It was actually invasion because their population was mounting. You know, Nigeria had a very huge population as compared to us. Our people, after the plebiscite, our people were just about 996,000, while French Cameroon were about 3 million. But Nigeria was going to about 6 million population. So, and now the people now, seeing that our territory was fertile, they had a lot of good vegetation, they started expanding. So our people became afraid that, if we remain with Nigeria with their huge growing population, then we will finally be absorbed in Nigeria. We will be completely lost. They will not even know any country like Ambazonia after independence. So that prompted them now to withdraw. So they withdrew, came and now formed their own government. And that's why I say, if I look at it and I say, okay, if they actually formed that government and decide to choose the parliamentary system of government, it was because they saw the shortcomings that were there in the federal system. They did not enjoy the system, and they decide to go into the parliamentary system. And that is why myself, I advise most of these our leaders who talk of Federal Republic of Ambazonia, this, and I even discuss with my Francophone friends who are now preaching about federation. I say, what are the criteria? Why do you choose, on what base you talk of federation? It was a federal, it was the parliamentary system of government. So if we are criticizing Cameroon for decentralization, which of course is what they know since independence, because some kind of centralized system, then we cannot be forcing them on federation, because that is a system they know nothing about. French countries don't federate. But and Ambazonians never practice anything like federation. We practice parliamentary system of government. So if we want to compromise, you will see that there's no way these two countries can live together, because they have a complete two different systems, two culturally different. So we cannot, our brothers who preach about federation, I don't know how they are going to make it, because in Ambazonia we know nothing about that. In French Cameroon they know nothing about that. What French Cameroon know is a centralized system, and all what they are talking about decentralization is still some kind of centralized system of government. So those are the reasons that pushed our people to leave. So maybe I'll come later on if there are other questions.
That's wonderful.
Wow, that's great.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
Axel, do you have anything?
Maybe just fill in, use other vocabulary. The question was why people discovered that the historians use the word underprivileged minority in Nigeria. And Chamfo had been talking about the date. We were the fourth region created in Nigeria. It was after we left that the Midwest was created. And the date, we petitioned and went to London in 1953. And so the Southern Cameroon's house was created in 54. Another reason there was no gunfire was because under the British, we had learned about the rule of law.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Rule of law and the place of dialogue in politics. We didn't know this killing and fighting with people. Everything was dialogue. So that is part of the reason why from 1963-64, the KNDP started asking to dialogue, because what they saw when they got to Cameroon was very strange to them. So the difference between living Nigeria and Cameroon is that Nigeria and Cameroon, being both socialized British, knew about dialogue, knew about constitution, knew about reform. They didn't know about war or killing.
Exactly.
Federation, there's little I can say there, except that the name the Federal Republic of Nigeria was adopted at independence in 1960. But then we are talking about 1953, 1954.
Yeah.
Then in Nigeria, there were regions. Those regions followed the parliamentary system. Both the Nigerians and Cameroon both followed the parliamentary system. Whether you were in the capital of the north, the east, or the west, it was all parliamentary.
Exactly. You're right.
So this is these are the few things I just wanted to fill in.
That's perfect. Exactly. That's perfect.
If I may add to, I think that in some readings you see that the Prime Minister of Nigeria said they invested a lot in southern Cameroon, but I would beg to disagree that southern Cameroon was a trust territory under the UN, so there was a budget for those trust territories. So what I believe what Nigeria was investing, they were not investing their money, even the cities and those corporations, because we were being sponsored by the UN through the British, and there were budgets
Yes.
across territories. So
Yes.
the Nigerian government
Yes.
could not now come and think that they had or they borrowed some money. That was money that was earmarked to us, and most of the resources, the budget was coming from southern Cameroon anyway.
Almost 86% to 70 to 80% was from the southern Cameroons. You're right.
Especially from CDC.
Yeah.
But I would think that even the union with the association with French Cameroon, I would give a lot of credit to our forebearers that they had the foresight, because if they were this generation, I call these leaders now. Anyone who call themselves leaders, these are people who are born under the Republic. They were brought up through the system of assimilation that La République wanted to instill in us. And then you would realize that our forebearers, if they had this same mentality, they would have been persuaded or corrupted to sign any document. And on that note, we should, if we are blaming them, we must give them all the credit, because we have a leg to stand today because they had the foresight with the fact that France knew everything and they had no other godfather to guide them. But they used their own wisdom not to sign any document.
Yes.
With La République, it gives us today to be able to stand up and say, no, our fathers did not sign any agreement, then you have no control over us.
And part of the reason they didn't sign was because they had gone to Fumban thinking they were going to draw up a constitution.
Correct.
So when they got to Fumban and discovered what was going on, they felt so frustrated. And so they began to be a little cautious. One of the reasons is that when they were going there, they thought they would be there for a long time and they would be working on the constitution. But when they got there and they were bamboozled with parties and celebrations and feasts, they were taken aback.
Exactly.
And they didn't.
Exactly.
Somebody said the real actual work of constitution drawing was, even though they were there from the 7th to the 21st, the real constitution did not last for more than 17 minutes. So anybody seeing that kind of thing and being who they were, our leaders were not like today's leaders. In fact, they had no home. They had no home of their own. Dr. E.M.L. Endeley, the first premier, died without a house.
So as we proceed in the conversation,
Mr. John Foncha's little house on Foncha Street does not even have a gate around it. They saw
exactly, and that's how Afcon came. Exactly.
They saw themselves as leaders of the people, not leaders of themselves.
Oh, that's exactly a point.
Yeah, exactly.
That Foncha's house was built in the 80s, in the mid 80s. That's when that Foncha Street was started. He had no house there. It was just a make-up thing that because he was all the time in Yaoundé, he had him no house. You're right.
And if I could also look into it, maybe correct me if I am wrong, because you see, during independence, the French were with La République, and we thought that the British would be with us. So I mean, during independence, so the British left, and handed us to La République.
They abandoned us.
Okay.
They abandoned us.
Then with the devious mind that the French were coming in, our people did not even, they thought that these were our brothers, but they were coming to assimilate us. We did not, our security, Ahijo just pulled in with his armies. And then, I mean, if anyone could really ask, why were our people so allowed this to happen? They did not even have time. Because as the British troops were going out, the French army was coming in. Because the French, they knew exactly what we could be, what our mobile wings could do if they allowed us time. So the only thing for them to do that, not to allow us to sink, is to just come in and invade. And when they came in with their Calais intimidation, and they start brutalizing our people, you see, I mean, their hands were tied. Our leaders had nothing. So I would not really be one of those who would blame them that they did not. And one thing that I would equally say is this generation who are calling themselves leaders, I really pray that they should go back and read what our forebears did for us to be where we are today. Because they, as I have heard from all of you, that Premier Endeley did not have a house. Dr. Foncha did not have a house. But these guys, they put more. They should put those two people. They put nation first above personal glories.
There was a question. Changfo had also asked a question. Why? I don't know. It was Abakwa who asked the question. Why would our people choose to go join these people? No, our people did not choose. It must be made very clear that our people did not choose.
Exactly, they were compelled. Yeah, just Riley, just as you said, our
that
people,
joining or whatever it is was imposed on them. When Foncha and Endeley went to the UN, they were unknowing about how we had been underdeveloped for a long time. They were instead praying to have another period to best prepare for independence. And Kale's party opted for clear independence. The people who stood on their way are the British. Just like today, it's like today the Palestinians will want their own state, but the US government will say, no, we can't allow you have it. So that was the kind of situation. It's not that we chose. It's not that we chose to join. No, we didn't.
I see.
The people did not choose to join. No.
Exactly.
Even the resolution 1608 says, accede to independence by joining. They completely said you could not. So the question now is, why would a world that is for freedom and democracy hamstrung a people and say, yeah, you cannot be free?
Yes, and yet they joined and there still was no independence. That's a problem.
No, we did not join.
I'm saying that
no, we've never joined them. That is the mistake most of our leaders, these young leaders, do. They go on TV and say we joined French. No, we were annexed. We were invaded 30th September. Remember, after Resolution 1608,
that's right.
A date for the celebration of that
independence, yes,
was set for 1st October. So when the British were leaving, before the British left, the French had moved in their troops with the French Cameroon troops already. That's 30th September, a day before. So we were actually invaded.
Yes.
So we never joined them, because it was during that ceremony that the association process was to begin. And that is why I argue with some intellectuals that, look, I don't think that we should even be celebrating 1st October as our day of independence, because there were many things that took place on that day. There were supposed to be
now it was proclaimed anyway. Siseko proclaimed it, so we can celebrate it.
Yeah, but that is what
admin.
Yeah, we can do it. We through proclamation, because after all, a national day is decided by the people. You decide what to celebrate.
The problem is that on that national day, Britain and the UN had to be there, like they were everywhere that was getting its independence. Unfortunately, Britain and the UN were not there, so they already breached.
You were not there.
They already breached the trusteeship agreement.
Ambazonia, special loyalty. Praise the soul of Savior who granted us the freedom. And let the soul the hero who goes along with God.
Glory will rise and never to fall. Hearing a nation flowing with milk and honey. Glory, glory, glory to the Father for making you a nation, a joy forevermore. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our needs. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God be the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall